What's up YouTube, TCG Battle / Logan's here, and I'm back with another deck profile, and finally I am doing my Gear Chronicle timely deck profile. This deck still needs some work, but I haven't lost any tournament matches with this deck yet. And if there's anything I'm missing, please let me know in the comments. I'm also asking this from now, if anybody has any spare Chrono Dragon next stages, at least one copy, then contact me and I think we'll be able to do a trade or something. So anyway, my starter for this deck is Chronojet. I've noticed a lot of people have stopped using Chronojet as their starting Vanguard, but I don't know. I really like this. I really like this card because if I time leap it, I can smooth it to the soul, and I can call Chronojet Dragon straight from the deck. So I get a spare attack, which I feel like is very useful. I feel it. My strategy wouldn't work very well without this card, so I've tried substituting it out, but it just hasn't worked. Next, for grade 3s, of course, I run 4 Chronojet Dragons. I have different art styles for them, but regardless, same effect. Generation Break 2. You get 5,000 power, and your opponent can call grade 1 or greater units to the guard circle. And its stride ability, Counterblast 1, put any opposing opponent's rear guard onto the bottom of the deck. So overall, my favorite Gear Chronicle card of all, grade 3 wise. Next, I'm trying to find like Revolution Eagle to replace these, but for now I am keeping 3 copies of Classic Gun Dragon from the second Gear Chronicle trial deck. No one really uses this card, but I kind of like it because once it's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, I can give any of my other cards the time leap ability. But the only thing it has is the time leap ability that is given to one of my other rear guards can only be activated if its attack hits the Vanguard. So this card has some drawbacks, but regardless, it helps me get an extra time leap in during my turn. So 3 of that. And for now, this card is becoming very surprisingly hard for me to find recently. I don't know why, but 1 copy of Steam Fighter Bali. I don't know how to. I can't pronounce his name correctly, but this card is a good card to use if you don't have Chronojet in your main hand. If you stride on top of him as your Vanguard, you take 1 Chronojet Dragon from your deck, make it the heart, then place some. I'm just gonna call him Bully. You place Bully at the bottom of the deck. So overall, you get to get Chronojet Dragon as your Vanguard right after you stride on top of this guy. So very useful. I'm trying to find more of these to replace at least one of the Classic Gun Dragons. That's it for the grade 3s. On to the grade 2s. For now, I'm keeping 2 copies of History Maker Dragon. History Maker's Generation Break 1 is Counterblast. When its attack hits a Vanguard, one of my rear guards gets the time leap. 2 copies of this card isn't that bad. I'm actually considering adding a 3rd in. Not really sure if I should, but regardless, this card has been very useful to me so far. I could really use another one. But still, this deck is doing pretty well. Next, this card isn't a time leaper, but it really it's from the first Gear Chronicle trial deck. Steam Fighter Amber. I keep 2 copies of this card in my deck. Pretty basic ability. Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1. If it's boosted, send one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards to the bottom of the deck. So if you're facing someone like a Gold Paladin user or a Royal Paladin user or someone in general that just needs rear guards out, during your turn you can just move them to the bottom of the deck. It might not do much good against Royal Paladin and Gold Paladin because you can just superior call more units straight from the deck. But it helps lower the opponent's rear guards, and also it could help take away their interceptors also, since a lot of people so far the people I've faced have had the new 15k interceptors in their decks. So 2 of him. Next, 2 of the classic 10k attackers. Smoke Gear Dragon from the original trial deck. I like this guy because when I first used Gear Chronicle with I just couldn't bear myself to get rid of this card. It has too much sentimental value since when I first got Gear Chronicle, I don't know, it ended up dealing the final blow most of the time because I always got it in my hand. I don't know, I just needed a 10k attacker for this deck, so I felt like Smoke Gear was the best choice for that. Next, two cards I love, two cards I really like. Steam Fighter Lugal, or Lugal. It's Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1. When it's placed on rear guard, pay the cost. It gets 2,000 power, and your opponent can now use grade 0s to guard its attack. So this card you have to be very careful to play like right after you stride, or the turn right after you've already played a G unit. Since it needs one face-up G unit, you really need to hold this card in your hand for a while. But it'll be worth it because it's basically the Silent Tom for Gear Chronicle. Very impressive. It's gotten me out of a lot of jams and gotten some easy attacks in. So two of those. For now, I only have one copy of Relic Master Dragon. Relic Master is it's a decent card. 9,000 power. Its ability is once it's placed on Vanguard or Rear Guard, I can counterblast 2 and send one of my opponents Grade 2 or less riggers to the bottom of the deck. So a bit more costly than Amber, but it activates once it's called, and it's not a generation break. So for now, I really could use this card in my deck for now. Sure, it wastes 2 counterblasts, but what can you do? Next, for now, at least, I have one copy of Lost City Dragon. Lost City Dragon, it's not really that good of a card. I just needed it to be a placeholder. But I do kind of like its ability. Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1. When this unit intercepts, pay the cost. Choose up to one of your opponent's attacking rear guards, and your opponent returns that unit to his or her deck. And then your opponent can call a unit that's 1 grade less in the same spot. And then they shuffle their deck. But your opponent has the option of calling that unit that's 1 grade less. So let's say your opponent has, let's say, a grade 3 rear guard out and it's attacking. All you have to do is intercept with this card. This card goes to the bottom of the deck, and your opponent has the choice of calling a grade 2 out so they can attack again. Or they can choose not to call a unit. But most of the time an opponent has called a unit. Pretty decent card. I'm thinking of replacing that card with another History Maker Dragon or Lugal. Not sure yet, but for now, I'm gonna keep this card in my deck. Next, a basic and pretty hard to use Time Leaper. Twice talented Gearhound. Its timing ability is Generation Break 1. Only activates on the rear guard. When your Vanguard drive checks a grade 3, this unit can time leap. So let's say it attacks already, and your Vanguard drive checks a grade 3, you can time leap it to you can time leap it. So you get an extra attack in. That's one thing I like about this new time leap mechanic. You can attack multiple times. That's it for the grade 2s. Oh, also this card has resist, so it can't be targeted by the effects of your opponent's cards. So it can't be retarded by Kagero or Narukami. And I think, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but it may not be able to get locked from your opponent's effects. So that's a possibility. No one I faced has used Blink Joker against me yet, so I can't really tell. If any of you knows, just leave it in the comments below. Moving on to grade 1s, I run 4 of the basic 8k attacker from the first trial deck, Mazer Gear Dragon. Mazer Gear, I just needed him for an 8k attacker. That's really it. I just I carried Mazer Gear in my deck when I first got Gear Chronicle, and I don't know, it's a really good card. It's a really good attacker for me. Alright, next I run 3 copies of Time Break Dragon. I'm thinking of getting a fourth, but so far 3 is working for me. Its ability is Generation Break 1. When this unit is placed on rear guard, choose up to one of your other rear guards and time leap it. So this is very useful. So let's say you have a grade 1 in the back row of one column, and then you call it. You can time leap this card and call a grade 2 straight from the deck. Or it could help you with the Chronojet combo. Call this card, time leap Chronojet for another grade 1. Like a lot of times I've done is I time leaped another time break dragon, so I can time leap again. So I can do a lot of time leaps in a row. Then in the end, I use Chronojet's ability and call Chronojet Dragon straight from the deck. Then at the end of the turn, it goes back to my hand, so I can use it to stride on my next turn. So far my time leap strategy for with time break has worked so far. Hasn't failed me yet. I'm still thinking of adding an extra one in. I might be replacing like one Mazer Gear or another unit. But that's about it for now. Next, I run 2 copies. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I run 2 copies of Steam Breath Dragon, which can count. This card can count as gets 2 grades higher. Gets an extra 2 grades when I use it to stride. And also when I call it to rear guard, if I reveal a grade 3 in my hand, I can add Chronojet monster from my deck straight to my hand, then discard a card. So overall, a good card so I can get Chronojet right back in my hand, or also so I can get an easy stride. Alright, next I run 1 Cornerstone Gear Turtle. Gear Turtle, it's basically just like my just like my Gear Hound. I just have it in there for an easy time leap. So it's not. So I don't really. So this is really the main card I'm thinking of replacing for an extra time break. But for now, it's also God Resist, just like Gear Hound. But its time leap ability is the exact same thing as Gear Hound. If I reveal a grade 3, discard time leaps. So if this card already boosted, or attacked, let's say, I can just time leap it for a grade 2. And the best part about time leaping is it doesn't have to. The best part about time leaping is it doesn't say it has to be in an open rear guard, which means I can replace another arrested rear guard with a new rear guard. Then I can just bring this guy back and place that time leap unit right back to the deck. So we got that. Next, I run 4 perfect cards. Only thing is, they're not the Steam maiden from Booster Pack 1, unfortunately. Those have been very hard to find for me. I have 2 copies of Withdrawn Gear Raven and Steam Maiden Sanilar. I haven't been able to find anybody to give me the counter charging perfect guard yet, but I am working on it. But regardless on that, this deck has worked pretty well so far. Finally, we're on to the triggers. I run 2 Lucky Pot Draco Kids for draw triggers. I only run 2 draw triggers in this deck. I was thinking of replacing these for like either stand triggers or critical triggers, but these cards add 3,000 power to any of my units when I move it to the soul. So it's a very useful card to have if you need to power up one of your Vanguard or rear guard. Next, I run 3 stand triggers, 1 Wakey Wakey Worker, and 2 Steam Battler Watar. Wakey Wakey Worker, its Generation Break 1 is at the end of the battle it boosted. I can take a face up G unit and place it face down. So let's say you have that one G unit that you want to use again. Just do an attack with this card, and you can place it back face down in the G zone to use on your next turn. Next, Water's ability Generation Break is place it at the bottom of the deck. When this unit is placed in the bind zone from rear guard, pay the cost, draw 2 cards, choose a card from your hand, and return it to your deck and shuffle it. So let's say I used History Maker Dragon's ability to time loop this card to, let's say, Gear Turtle. This card goes to the bind zone. I get to draw 2 cards. Shuffle it back into the. I get to shuffle this card back into my deck. I mean, place it at the bottom of my deck. Draw 2 cards, and send 1 card from my hand and shuffle it back into the deck. So if I've wasted like almost all my heal triggers, I can just send them back into my deck with this ability. This has worked for me many times, and it actually helped me, and it really helped me out. Next, I run 7 critical triggers. 4 Steam Battler Data Sig, 2 Steam Battler Meshstead, and 1 Paradox Cannon Draco Kid. Next, I run 4 Steam Maiden Uluru for the heal triggers. And that's it for the triggers. Finally, here are my G units. I only have 8 G units so far, and no G Guardians, unfortunately. The card shop I went to has been sold out of the new Fighters collection and booster packs for a while now. So, and I also haven't been able to go back, so... here are my G units. Miracle Element Atmos, which is a pretty decent G unit. When it attacks, it gets 10,000 power if you do a counterblast. So, automatic. With all the grade 3 units I have, it's automatically a 36k attacker, so it's pretty devastating. Next, 1 Fiery March Colossus, which has come very handy in my last couple of fights. Counterblast 1. Send one of your rear guards to the bottom of the deck. When this card attacks a Vanguard, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, place it at the bottom of the deck, and until the end of the battle, your opponent cannot call cards from the same grade as the unit placed at the bottom of the deck with this effect to the guard circle. So if you send the grade 1, if you send one of your opponent's grade 1s to the bottom of their deck, they can't call grade 1s to the guard circle, which means they can't use a perfect guard against this card. So the only thing you'd have to worry about is them using a generation guard. But they can still use grade 0s and grade 2s. So the only drawback of this card, your opponent cannot use only one type of grade. So, regardless, it has got me out of a lot of jams. And just for the sake of the original Gear Chronicle, I just placed in 1 Mystery Flare Dragon just because I kind of like my luck with this deck. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, counterblast 4, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. If they're all different grades, well, I get an extra turn right after this one. This ability has only worked for me once so far, but this card I only placed this in here because of one of my G units needs to unflip a face down G unit in order to activate its effect. So that's the main reason why I have this card in here. I needed an extra G unit, but sometimes if I'm way ahead in a fight and I know I'm gonna win, I just ride this card if my opponent's like 2 damage away from losing or so, and just to do this. I just like the idea of using a unit that's based on luck sometimes. I would never use it in any like big tournaments because it's too risky. But it's so far it's just a placeholder for like Chrono Dragon next stage. Next, I'm thinking of adding an extra one, but I run 2 Interdimensional Beast Metallica Phoenix. This unit, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, select a face down G unit and flip it face up, and time leap one of your rear guards. Automatic time leap once you attack. So I can time leap Chrono Dragon if I just attack with this card. So this card is usually my first stride. So it pretty much gets me in the lead when I start in the middle of a fight. So it gets me an early lead. Very useful card. And last but not least, I run 2 copies of Interdimensional Dragon Chronos Command Dragon. This card was the first generation rare from the first G booster pack. Its ability, Counterblast 2 and Soul Blast 1 and discard a card from your hand. When this unit attacks its Vanguard, return all of your opponent's rear guards to the bottom of the deck. So a lot of times when I use this card, I attack with it first, because a lot of times my opponent by the time I play this card, my opponent doesn't have that many cards in their hand. So I'll use this card. If they end up having if the tech ends up going through, they have no rear guards, and my rear guards get powered up with the triggers if my opponent chooses not to guard. And I deal a lot of damage too. And on their next turn, if they want to rebuild their formation, they would have to use up their entire hand in order to bring back the rear guards they lost. So, like, if you have this card in your deck, I would suggest not using it until your opponent has a full formation and doesn't have that many cards left in their hand. That's basically it. This has been my Gear Chronicle deck profile. If there's anything you'd like, any kind of decks you want me to try and do, just let me know. And if there's any improvements I can make to this deck, which I'm sure there are, just let me know in the comments below. Until next time, TSG Battle/Collections signing out.